Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today in this beautiful day. Well, it is starting to get better, at least we have the sun, into celebrating Professor Dimitris Lagoudas with the Doctor Honoris Causa degree. Right now, we would like to invite everybody on stage. So welcome again. I would like to invite our General Director, Professor Laurent Champanet, to open this ceremony.
Thank you, Elias. Hi, everyone. Very happy to see you here. Distinguished guests, Mr. Mathieu Perrault, Adjunct of the Director of Higher Education at the French Ministry of Europe and Foreign Affairs, Ms. Martine Roussel, Fulbright Director, members of the Board of Directors, faculty and staff members, students and alumni, colleagues from the industry, ladies and gentlemen, dear Dimitris, dear Magda, good afternoon and welcome to this third Arts et Métiers ceremony for the conferment of an honorary doctorate degree. It is a great honor to have with us today Professor Dimitris Lagoudas, to award him to the honorary doctorate degree. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Professor Lagoudas on his acceptance of the honorary doctorate degree from École nationale supérieure d'Arts et Métiers, Institute of Technology. The honorary doctorate degree of Arts et Métiers, Institute of Technology is awarded to distinguished individuals whose contribution to society and to the sciences have been truly exemplary. The degree is awarded to individuals who are an inspiration for our students and PhD fellows, clearly shaping the world through collaboration across borders, languages and cultures to the advancement of science and the creation of a sustainable future. Since its creation in 1789, Arts et Métiers has been committed to meeting the ever-changing industrial and societal challenges. Its first mission is to train the future leaders of the responsible industries. With its 8 campuses and 3 research institutes throughout France, Arts et Métiers benefits from an exceptional proximity to the industrial environment, allowing us to align the content of the programs and the needs of companies. More than ever, engineers are now at the forefront to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals using their scientific knowledge and experience to turn innovative ideas into sustainability projects for the benefits of all. As a disseminator of knowledge and innovation, Arts et Métiers also contributes to their production through 15 research laboratories and a doctoral school. Our ambition is supported by an international openness with a network of more than 100 universities around the world. Arts et Métiers has positioned itself as an economic player contributing by the specificity of its mission, training, research, transfer, to industrial development, and is working on the emergence of ecosystems conducive to economic development in the vicinity of each of its campuses. It is this same strategy that drives our international development. Arts et Métiers aims to develop a limited number of strategic partnerships in countries to accompany French companies in their development. It is the case, for example, with the creation of the French-German Institute of Technology with Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, AM Square Transatlantic Partnership for Industry of the Future with Texas A&M, where Professor Lagoudas has played a major role in ensuring the commitment from Texas University Systems. And more recently, the creation of a French-Malaysian Center for Excellence for Industry of the Future with the University Tecnologica Petronas for Southeast Asia. 2023 will also see the launch of an Arts et Métiers new campus in Rabat, Morocco, in partnership with the Ministry of Industry in Morocco. Research has no borders, and it's through international collaboration that scientific progress can be made to solve global challenges and to build a sustainable future for the generation to come. The title of the Doctor Honoris Causa is one of the most prestigious distinctions awarded by French higher education institutions and was created to pay tribute to foreign personalities who honor the values of the university through their contribution to the world of ideas, cultures, art, and science. It honors personality with an entrepreneurial or academic professional activities with an international aura. It is therefore a great honor to recognize and celebrate the work Dimitris has done to advancing science, as well as his commitment to the collaboration with Arts et Métiers. Once again, I congratulate Professor Dimitris Lagoudas on his honorary doctorate degree from Arts et Métiers and sincerely welcome him as a distinguished member of Arts et Métiers.
Thank you very much, Laurent. And now to put the beautiful words of Laurent Champanet into images, I would like to show you a small video that we have presented showing what Arts et Métiers actually is. And now I would like to invite our Vice President for Research and Innovation, Ivan Yordanov, to the floor, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Distinguished guest, Mr. Mathieu Perrault, Deputy Director of Higher Education and Research, French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs. Mrs. Martine Roussel, Fulbright Director. Laurent Champanet, President of Arts et Métiers. Members of the Board of Directors, faculty and staff members, students and alumni. Colleagues from industry, ladies and gentlemen. Dear Dimitris, dear Magda, I would like to, dear Dimitris, I would like to thank you sincerely for accepting the Doctor Honoris Causa from Métiers. We are impressed by your continuous contribution in the field of engineering, particularly in the field of advanced material behavior and the memory foam alloy domain. And perhaps most of these, your remarkable achievements to make your research applicable for the industry and the real life, particularly in the field of space and aeronautical engineering. I'd like to highlight your continued collaboration with Métiers, which has spanned more than 25 years, working first with Professor Etienne Pator, then with his team, who are all present today. It's a real honor for me, as Vice President Research and Innovation, to welcome you into our scientific community. As Laurent said, research has no border, and it is through international collaboration that scientific progress can be made to solve global challenges and to build a sustainable future for the generations to come. And it is thanks to your continual support that Métiers and Texas A&M joined their strength to create the AM2 transatlantic partnership for industry of the future in many fields and focus on smart manufacturing and materials. Today, AM2 is a truly and unique transatlantic collaboration in education with student exchanges in both directions, with the creation of a dual master program, and also in the research field with joint research projects. The last one being the European Horizon Research Project Mars. I think it's a very good example because together in this project, the objective is to propose new solutions to produce locally and with available materials and available processes, technological products. And with this achievement, we will produce products in a working environment respectful of the well-being, motivation and safety of the employee, and with a low environmental footprint. AM2 aims to reply to industry and societal needs in education, research and innovation, as it can be seen in this example, both sides of the Atlantic. We share together the goal to accelerate the transformation of industry into responsible and sustainable, and to be a strong player to realize the Sustainable Development Goals of the ONU. It is also within AM2 that Dr. Satish Mukhopadhyay, who is present tonight, co-director of AM2, that was awarded to the prestigious Fulbright Tocqueville Chair in 2020. I'd like to thank the Fulbright director, Martin Roussel, present today for this ceremony, to have awarded Satish for this. It was in 2020, so I know it was not as simple because it was, I remember, in March 2020 that he begins at Fulbright, the beginning of the COVID crisis. But finally, you did it thanks to the support of the Fulbright. I am convinced, dear Dimitri, that this joint initiative wouldn't exist today if it hadn't been for you belief and commitment in such an ambitious project. Once again, it is a real honor for us to welcome you into our scientific community. Thanks a lot to all of your achievements, and thanks a lot for your future achievements.
Thank you, Ivan. Now I would like to call Professor Fodil Meragni, the head of the doctorate school, to the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Elias. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Mr. President of Métiers, dear Laurent, Mr. Vice President for Research and Innovation, dear Ivan, dear colleagues, faculty members and staff members of Métiers, dear students and alumni, dear colleagues from other universities and institutions, dear partner from the government or from industry. Good afternoon and welcome once again to the ceremony honoring our distinguished colleague, Professor Lagoudas, for his Doctor Honoris Causa degree. Dear Professor Lagoudas, dear Dimitris, dear Magda, I am very honored and proud to be here tonight to say these few words about your outstanding academic curricula, Dimitris, and impressive scientific achievement, focusing on the design, characterization, and modeling of multifunctional material system across the scales, material scales and structure scales. Since many years, you are pioneering micromechanical modeling and characterization method of shape memory alloys. Your achievement and those of your collaborator have been fruitful for all the community working on these topics and have led a large number of added value industrial application, particularly in aerospace engineering. Dear Dimitri, your international career as well as your involvement worldwide prompt our admiration and respect. Your relevant contribution to the fields of shape memory alloys, microstructure design, and advanced structural and functional materials are sources of inspiration for all of us, particularly our 400 PhD candidates in Métiers, notably those who are working on the field of material science, multiphysics coupling, and advanced method for scale transitions. Besides the fact that I'm here as the head of the graduate and PhD programs of Métiers, I'm also really pleased to be with you because your relevant research topics are close to my own research topics, particularly those dealing with multi-scale modeling in SMAs and polymer composites. I remember well in 1998, when I was a young researcher with my first PhD student, I sent you an email to ask the source Fortran code providing numerical estimation of the HLB tensor, and you sent it promptly and with very, very good explanation, and we are still using it with my collaborator, with George, with Yves, and we are still using it. So thank you once again. Dear Dimitri, beside your intellectual curiosity, creativity, energy, and generous personality, and I can say that because I know you very well in that aspect, your open mind and your international approach for research have been crucial to build the worldwide partnership and initiative. Let me just mention two examples. The first one is the IMEC, the International Institute on Multifunctional Material for Energy Conversion, involving several countries across the world, Europe and North Africa. IMEC has been a wonderful and a great opportunity to strengthen NSAM Texas A&M cooperation, which had been initiated 29 years ago with my colleague and friend Etienne Pator. So you spent also huge efforts for supporting the Métiers and Texas A&M scientific cooperation towards creating this M2 transatlantic partnership for industry of the future in the smart manufacturing and materials. And thanks to your efforts, we did it. Now we have this effort of this M2 Institute. So there is no doubt that you are an international class leading researcher. Your esteem and friendship to France, and particularly to NSAM, are proofs of your commitment to our values, the values of Métiers Institute of Technology, and ideals. And these ideals, among them is the high-level international-oriented research to fit the industry and the society challenges. Dear Dimitri, your impressive success and the vast knowledge and skills you spread will certainly guide and inspire our young researcher. We look forward to deepen further and sustainable, fruitful cooperation in the future, dealing with our common research fields for the benefits of our PhD student and young researcher. Finally, on behalf of the PhD candidates and our colleagues from other campuses, please accept our sincere congratulations on this great occasion, awarding you the Doctor Honoris Causa of Arts et Métiers. So you are one of us now, as Laurent said, and also Ivan said. So you are one of the, you can say, member of Arts et Métiers. Thank you once again, and thank you for listening. Before just leaving the floor, I would like, because with Dimitris, we were working a lot with our colleague Etienne. We will make the last speech. So with Dimitris, we prepared one very good gift to Etienne, which is the special issue honoring all the career of Etienne Pator, because he was one of the pioneers in the Shape Memorial Laws. So we did this with Dimitris. We were the guest editor for this special issue honoring Etienne. So Etienne, this is now your turn to get this. Congratulations, Dimitris. Can you join me, please? Because we need a picture for the. And the last gift that I have to give to Etienne, because with him, we got also the prize of the best paper in this journal. So Etienne, you will be also honored by this best paper.
Today it's not me to be
Yeah.
You have made a mistake.
Okay, thank you, Elias. I would like also to thank Elias and Audrey for organizing everything that you are seeing today. So thanks to Elias Ziogas and also Audrey, which is in charge of the international research. Relation, so.
Thank you very much for the deal. Thank you indeed. So now I would like to invite you, Professor Pator, for the traditional tribute to the honoree. Do you want me to take that for you, maybe?
Thanks a lot. You get me some surprise. Okay, so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, my dear colleague. I want to thank the Arts et Métiers management for offering me this great opportunity to honor my dear friend, Dimitris Lagoudas, Professor Dimitris Lagoudas of Texas A&M University. I'm very happy that Arts et Métiers recognize the growing success of the collaboration between Texas A&M and Arts et Métiers. Such collaboration should have been impossible without the vision of international collaboration developed by Professor Dimitris Lagoudas. And more important, without the many efforts he has done during so many years in order to transform this vision into reality. Thank you, President Champanet. Also, thank you, Vice President Jordanov. And thank you, Director Meragni, for your contribution to this success. The title of Doctor Honoris Causa of Arts et Métiers is awarded to distinguish foreign personality for his contribution to the art, literature, science, and the technology, as well as his contribution to France, or to the Arts et Métiers. Professor Dimitris Lagoudas truly deserves these honors. I first met Dimitris in 1994 in College Station. This was almost 30 years ago. At this time, Dimitris was a young faculty in the Department of Aerospace of Texas A&M in College Station. The annual technical meeting of the Society of Engineering Science was hosted by Texas A&M, and Dimitris was the organizer of a symposium on the active material and smart structure. To my knowledge, This was the first symposium focused on mechanical modeling of shape memory alloys. Many symposia and conferences have been organized about shape memory alloys since the end of the 70s, but all of these meetings were focused on material science aspects. Dimitris was the first one to organize a scientific meeting focused on the mechanical engineering aspect of these alloys. I was a young faculty also in 1994, and I had the opportunity to attend this meeting, and from them, Dimitris and I stay in close contact. I visit him quite regularly in college station that become like a second home away from home for me. And Dimitris came many times in France, first at the invitation of the University of Metz, when I was assistant professor in the university, and later at the invitation of Métiers, when I became professor at Métiers. Professor Dimitris Lagoudas is a recognized scientific leader in the challenging area of multifunctional materials. Multifunctional materials and structures address many emerging technological challenges. Among them, morphing for aerospace application, development of energy harvesting system, biomedical device, and many other things. Multifunctional materials respond to environmental stimuli due to the existence of strong multiphysical coupling. In shape memory alloys, for instance, it is the thermomechanical coupling associated with a solid-solid phase transformation that is responsible for their particular properties, and in magnetic shape memory alloys, a thermomagneto-mechanical coupling is acting. Over the past decade, development of such material and their integration inside composite and nanocomposites have opened new chapters in the field of material science and engineering. Modern micromechanical approaches developed since the 80s are required to describe the behavior of this material and capture the influence and the interaction of the different strain mechanism occurring at various length scale. Professor Dimitris Lagoudas has produced many seminal contributions in this field. These contributions are fully recognized by the scientific community and by industry, as attested by his appointment in many panels and program review from NASA, Boeing, and many others, and also by the awards and honor he received from scientific organizations like the ASME Adaptive Structure and Material System Prize, he received in 2006, or the SPIE Smart Structure and Material Lifetime Achievement Award, he received in 2012. Professor Dimitris Lagoudas graduated in mechanical engineering from the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Greece, in 1982. After graduation, he moved to USA with his wife Magda and obtained his PhD from Lehigh University in Pennsylvania in 1986. This is one of the most distinguished private research universities in USA. He did his PhD under the supervision of Professor Dominique Delaine on the interaction of electromagnetic fields with defects in deformable bodies. After his PhD, he became a postdoctoral associate in the Mathematical Science Institute at Cornell University. During this period, he spent time as a visiting scientist at the Max Planck Institute at Stuttgart, and he published his first book, Gauge Theory and Defect in Solids, co-authored with Professor Delaine. In June 1992, he was here as associate professor in aerospace engineering at Texas A&M University, and he became full professor in 1998, and is since 2013 a university distinguished professor that represents the highest level of achievement for a faculty in US university. He strongly and successfully also involved himself into the management of his university. To give a few examples, he served as department head in aerospace engineering, and he was the first chair of the material science and engineering program at Texas A&M. He currently serves as associate vice chancellor for engineering research for the Texas A&M University System, that is a system of 11 universities and 8 Texas state agencies, with externally funded research expanded $1 billion annually. He also served as Senior Associate Dean for Research in the College of Engineering of Texas A&M and Deputy Director of the Texas A&M Engineering Experiment Station. This is a lot of responsibilities, and this is very impressive. Professor Dimitris Lagoudas is also deeply involved in professional societies. He chairs many conferences on smart material and structure for SPIE and ISME. He organized several annual technical meetings of the Society of Engineering Science and is the associate editor for the 2 top journals on smart material and structure. These are very few examples of his numerous achievements in this matter. This amphitheater is the right place to point that it is Professor Lagoudas who has organized the special symposium honoring Professor Gérard Mogin, a great and famous professor in mechanical science and an Arts et Métiers alumni. When Professor Mogin received the Erringen Medals of the Society of Engineering Science in 2003, Dimitris organized the symposium. In addition to being an outstanding scientist, a successful manager, and a great organizer, Dimitris is also a faculty totally devoted to his student. When I was in college station with him, I had the opportunity to see how he managed his research group, doing his best to motivate his PhD student, always pushing them to reach excellence. The weekly meetings of his research group were always very instructive, and I liked them. They used to take place every Monday at 5 p.m. Texas time. By the way, we're on Monday. I guess that Dimitris is playing a video call meeting this evening at noon. I'm really sorry for that, Magda. To be more serious, his second book, Shape Memory Alloys, Modeling and Engineering Application, published in 2008, provides a good example of how Dimitris cares about his students. This book has become the textbook for every student who wants to study this topic. And it takes its root in the technical conversation held during a retreat organized by Dimitris for his research group along the Red River in New Mexico. It was written in collaboration between Dimitris and 7 of his PhD students. This is a good example of how Dimitris is able to combine nice moment and great work. When I was at college station for a sabbatical, Dimitris offered me to share his micromechanical class, and this gave me the opportunity to see how he also cares about the education of grad and undergrad students. Back to France, I took example from him to improve my teaching, and I obtained excellent results. I have to confess that this was particularly true when I was teaching class at Georgia Tech. The success was more limited at Arts et Métiers class, but in some cases, it worked pretty well also. Another good example of how Dimitris pays a lot of attention about the education of students is the foundation of the IMEC Winter School in 2012. Professor Lagoudas has established an NSF International Material Institute, the International Institute for Multifunctional Materials for Energy Conversion, IMEC. This institute gathers scientists from the US and many countries around the Mediterranean Sea. Fodil Meragni, Tarek Benzineb, and I have represented France in this institute. Among the different objectives of IMEC, Dimitris has developed a lot of emphasis on the organization of winter schools. The rationale of these schools is that through history, the development of technology-enabling materials has been carried out using mostly experimental approaches. And nowadays, thanks to advances at the theory, software, and hardware level, computational material science has emerged as an extremely valuable tool in the development of new materials. So these winter schools introduce some of the most important methods within the computational material science toolkit to undergrad and graduate students interested in multifunctional materials. I had the great pleasure, and the director for Meragni also, to be an instructor in the school. Now it's time to become more specific about the relation between Professor Dimitris Lagoudas and Métiers. As an Métiers alumnus, I was surprised at my first visit at College Station by the many similarities that exist between Métiers and Texas A&M. These are not limited with these two letters, A and M. In fact, the meaning of these two letters is different for the two institutions. In the 1960s, they became a symbolic link between the present and the past of Texas A&M. A link between nowadays Texas A&M University and the Agricultural and Mechanical College of Texas, established in the 19th century in the Brazos County. For Métiers, such distinction between present and past doesn't exist, and they are related to Métiers since the day of the Duke of La Rochefoucauld-Liancourt at the end of the 18th century. I have noticed the existence of strong similarities between the Aggies, as called themselves a student of Texas A&M, and the Gadzar. Both have developed their own terminology for speaking to one another. And both are very proud of their time-honored traditions. These things are familiar to me. From a more engineering point of view, there are also many objectives shared by these two institutions in material science and advanced manufacturing. Dimitris and I have discussed many times about this point. As I said previously, in addition to being an outstanding scientist, Dimitris is also a faculty with a very strong dedication to his students. And providing an international experience to students is an obsession for him. So, when I became a faculty of Métiers in 1997, Dimitris immediately saw the opportunity to develop a collaboration between the two institutions for the benefits of students from Texas A&M and students from Métiers. Dimitris acted very fast, as he always does. And I come back from College Station with a memorandum of agreement to be signed by Métiers. At this time, Métiers International Affairs has been managed by Martine Boutillon, and she has carefully stored this document among many others. Then Dimitris tried something different, something less ambitious. He proposed we done a joint supervision of a PhD student, and then some alumnus. I went back to discuss this matter with Martine Boutillon to discover that at this time, there are not a single document written in English about joint supervision in the office of Métiers International Affairs. So I did the translation work, but that was not enough. Administrative problems from the French side came one after the other. And the thesis, and as a Texas A&M thesis, had a scientific collaboration between Dimitris and I. Then Dimitris tried something different, something very easy. I was in College Station in 2010 for a sabbatical when I heard about a visit planned by the General Director of Métiers, Jean-Paul Etier at this time, and Martine Boutillon. They planned to visit California, Massachusetts, and Texas, working place for many Métiers alumni. Dimitris seized the opportunity to propose we organize a meeting between the Métiers delegation and the president of Texas A&M, the dean of the College of Engineering, and several heads of department. He also proposed to organize a similar meeting with the president of Rice University in Houston. After some discussion, Jean-Paul Etier agreed with our proposal, and he eventually gave us a date for his venue. We were working on this visit agenda when someone said, "Hey guys, you must do a mistake. This date is a Sunday." But this was not a mistake. The US tour of the General Director starts in California, then moved to Massachusetts, and make a stop on Thursday, May 13, because this was a bank holiday in France. A private touristic visit of New York has been scheduled for that day. Friday was for the transfer between New York and Houston. Visit of Métiers alumni was scheduled on Saturday, and Sunday was offered to us before his departure back to France, planned on Monday. So this tentative failed again. And Dimitris tried again, but this time without me. I have moved to Georgia Tech, and now it was my friend Fodil Meragni and Dimitris who worked together to establish a connection between the Brazos Valley and Métiers. And for the benefits of students from Texas A&M and from Métiers, President Champanet, Audrey Stewart, and Director Fodil Meragni were far more efficient than Jean-Paul Autier, Martine Boutillon, and I used to be during so many years. They rapidly found a way to sign a memorandum of agreement and to establish the transatlantic partnership called AIM Square. I was used to work on Martin's fast transition. That is a particular fast transition, diffusionless one. So I have forget that for most of fast transformation, we distinguish two stages. First, the nucleation stage, and then the growing stage, which was in fact similar for AIM Square. First, a very, very slow nucleation process, and now a fast grow. I'm so happy that this story eventually comes to a happy end, and that we are together here today to distinguish my dear friend, Professor Dimitris Lagoudas, with the title of Doctor Honoris Causa of Métiers. Receive all my congratulations, Dimitris. Again, thank you, President Champanet. Thank you, Vice President Jordanov. Thank you, Audrey Stewart. Thank you, Director Meragni, for your contribution to the great success of the establishment of AIM Square. I wish a bright future to this partnership. And thank you very much, everybody, for your attention and for your patience during this talk.
Thank you, Professor Pator. And now I'm very honored to present to all of you a very bright student from our Grande École program, Youssef Mohamed Kabzei, who has composed specifically for tonight a piano piece, and he will give us the honor to play this piece for us right now. Thank you. Thank you so much for this beautiful moment. Okay, and now I would like to call our General Director, Professor Laurent Champanet, for the official insignia part. Yes.
We, the General Director of École Nationale Supérieure d'Arts et Métiers, on the proposal of the doctoral school, validated by the management and scientific boards and approved by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, confer on you the title of Doctor Honoris Causa of ENSAM. Dimitris, do you accept the award and the diploma?
Oui.
I think it's up to you to work now.
Merci beaucoup. Je suis honoré. It's a great honor. I'm moved by your kind words, by this distinction, and especially since I come from Greece, making my professional career at Texas A&M and then honored by one of the most prestigious engineering schools in France. It is very, very meaningful, and I'm humbled by this. Really appreciate it. And I would like to say a few things. I have started with a technical presentation, and then I was going more into the sentimental, removing more of the technical slides and putting some of the memories, and you have described them very well, Etienne, my dear friend and colleague, Fodil, Laurent, and Ivan, you have described many of our interactions, so I will not speak for too long, even though I promise this every time I present. I would like to start and go back to my birthplace, which is Ceres, and it seems like there is a famous French scientist we saw today. But this is my birthplace in the northern part of Greece. And I want to go back to my great-grandfather, who was an educator. And that is the role model that I had. So he fought for the Greek War of Independence, and he influenced my thinking. Then I moved to Thessaloniki, which is the major city in the north, where I got my education. Professor Michailidis is representing the Aristotle University, and we were classmates. This is where I met Magda. We were both studying mechanical engineering, and this is where we spent many beautiful years. And also it formed my interest in engineering, but also in applied mathematics, the discovery. I had some of the great professors at that university, and they influenced me actually to go to Lehigh University, as it was mentioned, where I studied with Dominic Idelen, applied mathematics. And eventually I found my way to Texas A&M, and as Etienne also mentioned, there are many similarities are Métiers and the Texas A&M University, which is a land-grant university for engineering and agriculture, with many great traditions. And one of those is actually the name. Etienne, I want to make a correction that the name A&M is Texas A&M means actually transformation from Austenite to Martenside. And this is the proof. When we have a football game, the American football, what we call the Aggie band is marching, and then they have different formations. One is tetragonal, austenitic, and then they have the martensitic, the monoclinic formation. And they go back and forth, so it is a reversible phase transformation because they can go from one phase to another and reform it. As it was mentioned, for many years we have worked on the applications, the modeling, but also the applications of shape memory alloys. And you can see them, they have been implemented especially in the aerospace industry, but also in the automotive industry, the oil and gas exploration industries, and energy transmission. They have many applications. Of course, the biomedical is the one that is commercially more visible because of the cardiovascular stents. But in engineering applications, we see them emerging for the last 60 plus years. And in aerospace, where we have worked extensively, is the morphing aircraft. So you use those solid state actuators. They are strong materials, metallic materials, and they can change the shape of a structure. They can improve the efficiency, but also they can reduce noise for different morphing or even controlling the surface to make a easier controllable aircraft. And even though we worked on nickel titanium, as I mentioned, for the biomedical applications, we worked over the years in some of the high temperature alloys, nickel titanium, hafnium. I know when I started interacting with Etienne, the copper-based alloys were investigated in the laboratory at NSAM, first at LPMM and then at NSAM as well. But as we have gone over the years, the demands of the industry have required new alloys, especially working at higher temperatures for extreme environments. And there are many discoveries. And of course, the alloys need to be characterized and modeled if they are going to be used in design of engineering systems. The references are extensive. Our interactions with the French group was mostly in their development of the micromechanics of shape memory alloys. Many contributions there, and this is where we came in a different way. We were closer, I would say, to the application in terms of inserting this into an aerospace morphing structure. So we needed what we call now reduced order models or phenomenological models, but they were informed by the micromechanics. And you can see many, I just have a very short reference, but you see names that you recognize, L'Excellent, Patour, Benzineb, and many others who have contributed over the years from the French School of Micromechanics, specifically for shape memory alloys. And some of the work as we move forward, it helped us as we try to explain the influence of microstructure into the behavior. Doing many of the contributions is to try to understand the processing parameters into the effective response. So you have to take into account precipitation as a result of heat treatments. You have to also pay attention to the sensitivity in the chemical composition that changes extremely fast, the transformation properties. So you have to model that with diffusion processes, and then, of course, to develop the representative volume elements to do the thermomechanical response. And in some cases, to model some of the material systems, you need to really understand and model the microstructure very closely. And so sometimes you do modeling, but in many cases you have to depend on actual experimentation to take the microstructure into account. This is for some of the newer systems we have worked on, high temperature nickel titanium hafnium in collaboration with material scientists at Texas A&M. And these are not trivial experiments to get the 3D microstructure of these precipitates. And actually this afternoon I briefly mentioned different levels of modeling at the mesoscale, where you include the boundary conditions, you account for the microstructure using this basically connectivity of micromechanics to the global behavior of a material system. And this also has been influenced by very precise micromechanics methodologies developed based on the SLB approach. And they have been used by our teams for many years, connecting what happens at the micro scale with the overall problem. A lot of discussion was also today about the introduction of new neural network methods, the machine learning algorithms, and I believe the convergence is that we can use those methods if we put the constraints coming from physics in the right way. And also I want to mention that to generate all this for the training of these models, we have used the fast Fourier transform methods for inelastic systems. And every time I look at who influenced our thinking, you see names like Souquet and others coming from the French School of Micromechanics. As I mentioned, for us, I would say our main contribution, without going into details, is to understand the micromechanics influences and then develop these models that could be then incorporated into finite element environments, computational environments for design and analysis of engineering systems by incorporating mechanisms that are understood better at the micro scale, like transformation-induced plasticity, partial phase transformation, and then, of course, the coupling that is so important in these systems between mechanical and thermal loads. And those have been really used directly correlated to when we embed these materials in aerospace systems as actuators to change the shape, to morph these stiff systems with these materials. And as you do it many times, you have a deterioration of the material you need to account that leads to an investigation of fatigue life and durability of these materials. And we have worked with colleagues over the years. I just want to mention that if we are going to summarize our modeling, which is a class of models, is we introduce internal state variables to understand the evolution of the microstructure in an average way. So we introduce the volume fraction of Martenside. And this is where we have worked with Etienne's team and others, try to understand how does it translate from micromechanics into this level of constitutive modeling that can be used in the continuum directly connected to computational methods. And of course, the implementation has been initially in our own codes, but eventually in commercial software like Abacus, where many problems have been solved that are beyond the one-dimensional models, that have like spring elements, torque tubes, and many other elements. And I want to mention a program that we are actually finishing this year. And you can see elements like solar panels driven by SMA actuators. And some of these also could be designed as adaptive systems, self-responding to the environment when you change the conditions like the temperature. And one of these applications, the recent one, is with a team of collaborators, industry as well, Boeing, for example, and several other universities. We try to see how to morph a new class of supersonic vehicles that can have reduced noise. The sonic boom is reduced so they can be allowed to fly overland. I mean, you may remember Concorde was the great experiment. And unfortunately, the noise wouldn't allow it to fly over cities. And of course, there was an accident as well, but it was not commercially viable because of that main reason. So we are working with NASA. NASA has developed an experimental plane is called X-59, which is the next class of quiet supersonic vehicles. And we are working with them, try to embed shape memory alloy actuators because they are high force and you can incorporate into the structure to change it so that you can reduce the boom, the sonic boom, as this airplane flies over different conditions, because this is influenced by the temperature, the weather conditions are influencing extensively the sonic boom. Can we adjust for those variations to have the loudness below acceptable levels? And all of this work on shape memory alloys that I mentioned earlier has found a way to connect. We got the requirements, we see how can we morph the aircraft so we can have the sound propagation that we influence it, so what we perceive as loudness is within acceptable levels. And for 5 years now, we're working with this team, a very successful group of individuals, again, with industry, Boeing and their suppliers working with us and several universities with Texas A&M. And another application for rotorcraft I want to mention, actually this is in collaboration with Gandhi from RPI. RPI was another university I spent several years as an assistant professor, where you can embed an SMA and you try to morph it, and then you reduce the blade vortex interaction. And these are difficult problems to solve numerically, but also to implement because of the constraints when you have the SMA connected to the joints of the blade. And moving on, these models have helped us where we're discussing today. I see the new group at NSAM working on many of these problems. I was really impressed by the team that came both from Aix-en-Provence, also from Faudil and his team. So many of these things we are also thinking in a similar way, folding shapes that can be motivated by these multifunctional materials, because you can do this in a way that is self-morphing if you change the temperature. And these origami principles are quite useful in developing those. And I want to mention also, no matter what you do, we found out by working with the aerospace industry, the adoption of these new materials, they have to pass certification. This is something we don't talk in academia too much, but the FAA in the US will not allow any material to go into the critical path unless you show the durability. It can withstand all of the requirements, and this is a very difficult field that we have worked for the past 10 years understanding how these materials fail, what loads, how cracks propagate through these materials that are so complicated now, because it's not just the inelastic plastic behavior, you have the phase transformation. And that allowed us to understand the behavior in many different ways. For example, some thought that when you raise the temperature, the material becomes brittle because it becomes stiffer in some sense, and it will fail. But in many of the experiments, in this case, we load a specimen, and then as you cool it down, it fails when the material becomes more compliant. And you can explain this by understanding how these phase transformations take place, as my colleagues explained earlier. It is not easy, but the moment you start understanding that sensitivity, then many things that happen are easily explainable. And some of the simulations are following the experimental observations with digital image correlation. Again, these are the difficult problems. At the crack tip, you have many things, stress singularities, stress-induced phase transformation, and these are the difficult problems to solve. And I have to say that our first joint PhD student, Olivier Bertacchini, worked on the fatigue of SMAs. Now there is quite a bit of work on this. It is done by NASA, by Boeing, by other laboratories, but that was, as far as I can tell, the first PhD working on the durability, like how many cycles can I have with this material before it fails? And that was a joint PhD with Etienne. And challenges, we still have challenges. How do we model these materials that are very sensitive to composition, the heat treatments, the external parameters? How do we select the right internal state variables to model the changes in the microstructure? How do we validate these constitutive models? Because there are many. Every group has their own variation of their behavior of these materials. How do we validate these models? And then how do we make them computationally efficient? And I was really pleased to see some of the former colleagues, but formerly associated with us, and now, like Yves presented this evolutionary neural network. So there are some creative ideas, and he was saying that orders of magnitude, you can do these computations faster. Again, Yves did his PhD at NSAM, and then he did his postdoc at Texas A&M. Now he's a professor here in France. Great examples of very fruitful collaborations. And then I found this slide. When we had this IMEC program, and I have a couple more slides for this that was described earlier, we asked Etienne, can you give us the challenges, micromechanics for shape memory alloys? This is your slide, Etienne, and you will see that even though it was done 10 plus years ago, they are still very relevant. Point defects, dislocations, all of these defects that we have in the material, precipitates, grain size, anisotropy. Then you go into crystallographic texture, creep. I mean, these are the localization, strain localization, and then multi-physics coupling. We were discussing those phenomena before. Now all these are catchphrases, many of them. So these are visionary thinkers that they were developing many great ideas here in France. Many of our sponsors, I want to thank, from industry to the funding agencies we have in the US, especially NASA, the National Science Foundation, and some of the other agencies. And of course, the students, the books that we wrote, the postdoctoral associates, the PhD students, the master students, they are the ones who created this body of work that we're all very proud of. It is their work. And some memories from the Spartans. Of course, you know why, because it connects with Spartans. So the same memory alloy team in different activities as we get together, from food competitions to retreats that we have. And I have a few pictures that I found where I see some of our French colleagues. And I realized a tradition in Europe is when you get together, it's good to go into a nice place and generate ideas, be creative. In the US, it is more professional meetings. And then we started, I would say, from Professor Krenner when I was in Stuttgart. I realized that is a good way to generate ideas. And then we had 2006 in New Mexico, we had this retreat where we did half-day thinking and half-day skiing. And it was a very great combination where we started developing the ideas for the book that we wrote on shape memory alloys. And this kept for many years. We kept through COVID. I have to say that that has slowed down the interactions for a couple of years, but we're coming back. And many of the meetings for us would be going to a place to be creative and also have some kind of a food surrounding us and having a good time. And even during COVID, we had to put pies in the background as we were discussing. Many names. I may have left some out from this list, but these are the students, postdocs who contributed. And we have papers with all of them. Many of my colleagues still were working together, and I hope we have many years to still collaborate and develop creative ideas. And of course, my family, Magda, thank you for your support. All these years, we were classmates, and then we have two beautiful daughters, and Natasha is married to Justin Wilkerson, who is a professor now, associate professor in the Mechanical Engineering Department of Texas A&M. Natasha and Justin were both aerospace engineers, classmates, and they got married. We have 2 granddaughters. And then the younger, so we have 2 daughters, Natasha and Georgia. Natasha is the older one who married to her classmate in aerospace engineering. And then Georgia, bottom left, she is the younger one, and she also married her classmate in biomedical engineering when they were together. So this is a family of inspiring individuals, and we have many interesting discussions about the art and other non-engineering subjects and philosophy, as you can imagine, but sometimes it is going about engineering principles. And we really love those interactions. Great family and great support. Let me say a few things now about this IMEC. It was a moment, and I don't know who needs to get the credit. I think it was a collective idea. At that time, there was a discussion about connecting European countries with other Mediterranean countries, North Africa and Middle East. And then this is actually from a few slides I have from the presentation when we had the annual meeting in MES 2013. And then we thought for many centuries, the Mediterranean Sea was connecting the civilizations because by sea it was the easiest way to travel. And then, of course, things divided. We have railway and other ways of communicating and transportation. But then we said, why don't we go back because these civilizations are connected? And then you can see, except for Libya, there was a war during that time, we connected most of the Mediterranean countries and Middle East as well. And we formed this International Institute for Multifunctional Materials for Energy Conversion. And they were colleagues from all of these countries, many in European countries, Mediterranean countries, many others in the US, coming from these countries as well. And then we formed this institute that the National Science Foundation funded for, as you see, for more than 5 years. And that was a great way to connect the communities. So we had common computational facilities, common laboratories, and we developed areas that are still relevant today, as you see, shape memory alloys, electroactive materials, and then also optical, electrical, other couplings, everything that connects material together and takes energy from one form into another. Through the material connection, we try to understand. And this computational material science actually was the connecting theme. And I just brought one slide from that meeting. If you read what we were investigating, that is almost 10 years ago. 10 years ago, it was 2013 when this slide was presented. We had dislocation dynamic methods, phase field models. These are now in the forefront of computational science. And then that means we were working on this for a few years, computational methods based on genetic algorithms for the selection of optimal compositions. This, you can call it machine learning today. So these are the things that came out of this creative thinking of many scientists from all of these countries, and some of them from the US, who came from these countries, as I mentioned. And this is another slide that, Etienne, it has some of the work from your team. It was a composite slide, multi-scale modeling. Again, at that time, it was a major effort. Now we have software that the multi-scale modeling, it is a very well-established field. And the workshops and summer schools that it was mentioned, this is at the University of Thessaloniki. Nikos keeps that tradition, and this is the number 10 now. I mean, it keeps going every year, the first week in July. And then we had those retreats. And then I see the first one, I think it was for this IMEC, it was in France in the winter of 2010. And you see pictures, Etienne, you look younger. And then in the summer, August 2010 in Texas, you remember the Guadalupe River, we were there, you were there, and then a few other retreats. So it was a great environment for creating ideas with our collaborators and students. And this is a picture I found Olivier Bertacchini, our first joint PhD student, and I have to say the cathedral at Metz is our favorite. This is where we spent one Christmas outside, either not in Greece or not in the US. That was in Metz, and we went for the Christmas service at the cathedral. It is a magical place, and it has connected us. I mean, it is a connection point. If you go there, you just get absorbed, and then you say, I belong in this place. And that's how we felt. My favorite place is my first visit at LPMM in the Ile du Solcy. My understanding is that was built during the Napoleon years, and that was when I first went, and I was trying to connect with the French culture, and I don't know how to do it, but magically things happened. I don't know how. I think the food has something to do with that. And you can see, I believe this is in 2002. I don't have the exact date at hand, but it was a workshop that you organized. You see, you have Raktim Bhattacharya from Caltech next to you, and then Mohammed Serkaoui is in the front, so years ago. More than 20 years ago, we had this event in France. One story I want to mention, there is a very complicated education system in France, and every time I ask a question, then everybody laughs and says it will take a day to explain. So, Etienne had to go to Nancy because the university also has a branch there at Metz and at Nancy as well. So he had some duties there to spend a day. So I go with Etienne, and Etienne said, I will leave you here. I was supposed to visit a professor in civil engineering department, and she is like Magda's best friend, sister. So I go, and Etienne leaves me at the university at Nancy. And then I ask everybody for this professor of civil engineering, and nobody knows about her existence. And then there were amphitheaters and classrooms, and then someone at the end understood that I was lost and said, this is the teaching campus. If you look at the top of the mountain, the hill, you have the research campus. So she must be there. And then at the end, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any iPhones or anything. And Etienne was going to pick me up at 5 p.m. at the end of the day. So I was totally lost. And you may hear stories about the French culture and then people who go to Paris and how, the French have enough of tourists, okay, and how the interactions take place. My interactions with the French individuals, the people of France, have been stories of connectivity. So as I was lost, I found an elder gentleman, and I said, how can I go to the top of this mountain to visit this friend, this colleague? He looks at me, he said, there is no public transportation. I don't know how you can go there. You can walk for an hour and you can go there. And he looked at me and he understood I was totally lost and desperate. So he took me to his house. He was a retired professor of that university. He took me to his house, we drank coffee together, and then he opened his garage door, probably a car that he didn't drive anymore, and he drove me and he delivered me to this colleague of mine. Unforgettable experiences of human interactions that I have lived in France, in addition to the scientific culture that is so strong. And of course, the NM Square. And I want to disclose the secret of how things happened at Etienne. It happened when we had great dinners. And you see, this is May 10th, 2016. We had a great dinner here and you can recognize some of the, Lorraine, I think that is you to the left, Ivan. And we had a great dinner and said, why don't we collaborate? How do we didn't have any paper, so we took a napkin and we wrote the A&M Square. I think it was developed during that evening. And the elements of that, actually, as I found this picture, I saw innovation, you see IREP, innovation, research, education, and partnerships. And that's what it is. So I don't know if it was the wine, the food, but we were quite creative. And by the way, this is the picture we took today, is that right? In the same. And then the following year, we come again, is when we also had the official signing of the A&M Square when President Banks was here. And that was another dinner, and then another piece of paper. And you can see, if you zoom in, it says November 29th, 2017. That was when we signed the agreement. And again, who is this Ivan? Hiding behind the agreement. So that, and if you zoom in, it says about how many PhD students, collaborations, different topics. It is quite detailed. So this is the secret of the collaboration. You have to have a nice dinner and be creative at the end. And of course, administration is very supportive. That is the key. And this is the signing ceremony with President Banks. She was the vice chancellor at that time. She's now the president of Texas A&M. She visited the laboratories. It was a great visit. The partnership has been established, and you see many of Satish and many of us being there, signing the agreement. And now it has morphed into dual degree programs, research partnerships, and focusing on the Aix-en-Provence campus. And this, with the individuals who are involved, I'm sure that this will keep growing and will become a partnership for many years to come. And this is the last visit we had in May, like a few months ago, when the leadership from NSAM visited, and this is a picture we took in the administrative building of Texas A&M, one of the oldest buildings we have. And you can see the picture here, Audrey, Ivan, you see everybody is here with Loren and Professor N.K. Anand, who is now the VP, for the Vice President for Faculty Affairs for the university. And I really thank you for this great honor. I'm humbled by this, and even though I was thinking to say this, I'm really honored. Please read this. It expresses as if I'm mentioning these words to you. France has developed micromechanics as a field, and I'm really honored to be able to be part of this culture and have great colleagues and collaborators. And as we all know, some of our major mechanics names that come to mind, you see Cauchy. We know the Cauchy tetrahedron very well. That's what we teach to our students. And you can see his last words: what you do and you leave behind is what you pass to the next generation. And then you have Poisson, another great mathematician and mechanician who studied mathematics, and teaching is the honorable thing after understanding mathematics, the two great things in life. And of course, Fourier, and of course there are many, but these are the things that capture also your imagination. Study the world, like this is the Aristotelian philosophy. Study the nature and then try to model it using mathematical models, and then pass this from generation to generation. So I thank you so much, and I want to finish with this video. This is a student project from Texas A&M. These are SMA springs. Professor Hartl supervised the student. You can see it's a major kinetic art in the aerospace building, and it reminds us how to be creative. We have to really incorporate the surrounding that is giving us inspiration and nature as well, and create something bigger than ourselves. Thank you. Again, I'm honored by this, and I would be involved with this beautiful community for years to come. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
So thank you everybody. Once again, συγχαρητήρια καθηγητή Lagoudas. And I would like to invite you all to our library hall for a cocktail. Thank you.